The gale sliced through my wool duster like it was settling an old score. 20 below and plunging as the sun hemorrhaged crimson over the jagged peaks. I was patrolling the barbed wire along my eastern meadow when it pierced the howl, a wail that had no business echoing in that iced-over desolation. An infant's cry. I wheeled my mare toward the aspen thicket, and that's when I spotted him. A black boy, no older than 9, hauling himself across the drifts. His left leg twisted at a cruel angle, splintered bone jutting through flesh, staining the snow with crimson flecks sharp as holly berries against the pallor. Trailing behind, he dragged a swaddled lump in a threadbare grey parka. The baby kept up that feeble keening, which meant it was hanging on. He toppled for times before scraping the fence line. Each fall, he clawed back to his feet. When he finally crumpled 40 yards from where I sat, rooted in my stirrups, I gigged my horse into a gallop. Close up, his lips were violet, his small fists charred black by the bite of frost. He gripped a whittled branch etched with tallies, vice-tight, even as his knuckles lost all feeling. I dropped to one knee in the powder beside him. His lids cracked open. Deep brown eyes, wise beyond his years in that young face. "Don't let the river ghost catch us," he rasped. Then his grip slackened, but that tally stick stayed fused to his palm. I scooped the boy up featherlight, his frame brittle as a sapling in drought. The infant couldn't have topped 6 months, ashen and gasping shallow. I bundled them both within my duster, pinned to my torso, and thundered back to the homestead. The great room blazed with hearthfire when we shouldered in. Lupe, my housekeeper these last 12 winters, sized us up and unleashed a torrent of commands in Nahuatl laced with frontier drawl. She plucked the baby free while I eased the boy onto the oak trestle. Dios, Lupe murmured, tracing a swift sign of the cross. "How long out in that hell?" "Hours, reckon." "Could be days." I was shearing away the boy's ice jacket with my gutting blade. The cloth snapped like tinder, rigid with rime and gore. That's when I spied the inner seam pried apart and basted shut rough with what passed for baling twine. "Fetch Doc Harlan Voss," Lupe ordered, nestling the baby in quilts by the embers. "This little one's fading fast." And the boy, Amada de Dios, that limb. I spurred into the night for the outpost, the storm shrieking like banshees at my flanks. Tracked Doc Harlan Voss to the roadhouse, mid-hand at Pharaoh. One glance at my mud-caked grimness, and he snagged his satchel. By our return, Lupe had the pair by the blaze. The baby mewed now, faint but fighting. The boy roused once, jaws clacking like castanets. "Name, son?" Doc Harlan crouched, voice steady as granite. "Elias," he chattered. "Elias Thorne." "That's my sister, Lila." "Who broke you like this, Elias?" His gaze ballooned with dread. He lurched upright, snatching for the tally branch propped nearby. "Don't say where we are, swear it." "She'll end us." "End Lila like she ended Papa." Doc Harlan met my stare. I met Lupe's. The boy's femur speared neat through the meat, yet his fear fixed on hunters, not the grave. "No harm finds you under this roof," I said, my tone even as fresh-plowed earth, startling me with its calm. "But that leg needs mending. It'll burn like sin." "Reckon so," Elias breathed. "Just hold fast." So I braced his shoulders while Doc Harlan realigned the brake. Lupe hummed a old Yaqui lullaby, hushed and rhythmic. The boy yowled once, a raw blade to the gut, but he locked in place. When Doc Harlan lashed the brace with bullhide thongs, Elias endured, those timeless eyes scanning us still. "Tough as boot leather, this one," Doc Harlan allowed, dabbing his brow though the chill lingered. The air hung thick with laudanum haze, iron tang, and pine resin. Elias's lids drooped. The tincture claimed him. But on the brink, word spilled from him, a dam burst after an age sealed. "River Deeds, 1873, he slurred. "Echo Gulch, prior right, Thorn Calder Accord, filing for 12D. Papa drilled it into me. If the worst comes, track the magistrate, prove it." His fist clenched the tally branch anew, then yielded. Lupe drew a comforter over him. Doc Harlan scoured his tools in a kettle of steaming water. The rasp of steel on iron rang sharp in the hushed great room. "What do you make of that ramble?" he ventured. "River deeds. Beats me, but that branch he's latched to, it's a gauge rod. My grandame swore by one just like it. You score it to the stream's rise every thaw, to stake your first water hold. HMPH. And somebody hankered to bury these young uns deep," Doc Harlan muttered. "That femur didn't snap from stumbling. It's a deliberate crank, you can trace the spiral gouge. And them welts on his wrists, cigar stubs, faded but fresh enough, couple weeks back." Before I could muster a word, the thunder of hooves rolled in from the dark. A dozen strong. Lupe peered through the frost-rimed glass and blanched like curdled milk. "Marshall's here, and he's dragged half the burg along." I strode to the threshold and flung it wide. The night gale whooshed through, freighted with the reek of lathered mounts and pitch torches. Marshall Tate bestrode his gelding at the pack's head, and flanking him rode a fellow I'd clocked in the settlement now and then, mid-40s, decked in a tailored greatcoat, with a theodolite dangling from his saddle horn like a hanged man's noose. The man jabbed a gloved finger my way. "They're holed up in there. I feel it in my marrow. That meddling spinster swiped my departed bride's bloodkin." Marshall Tate exhaled a plume of frost and fished a creased vellum from his waistcoat. "Miss Langford, I've writs of custody here, inked by the circuit justice. States Gideon Warwick holds lawful wardship over Elias and Lila Thorne. You'll oblige me by handing Em across." From the fireside shadows, I caught Elias's faint mule in his drugged doze. Out on the stoop, Gideon Warwick's lips curled in a wolfish grin. "You've got sun up to sundown thrice," the marshal drawled. "After that, I'll ride in with irons for child lifting." Sleep dodged me that witching hour. I hunkered in the great room, eyes pinned on Elias and the babe's ragged rises and falls, ears cocked to the gale clawing at the shutters. Lupe brewed Java thick as axle grease, and we slurped it wordless till the heavens bruised pewter. Sabbath dawned brittle and brittle bright. Lupe would brook no argument, we'd haul Elias to meeting house. "Folks gotta lay eyes on their sorry state," she pressed. "Gotta witness we're not skulking secrets." I bore Elias swathed in woolens, his splints rigid as barrel staves. Lila nestled in Lupe's crook, puny but suckling steady now. The chapel chimes tolled as we mounted the plank stairs, and I sensed the weight of stairs from every porch and alley mouth. Within, the benches groaned under a full house. Head swiveled as we threaded the nave. I claimed a bench aft, bedding Elias at my flank with all the tenderness of handling china. He was stirring by then, those fathomless brown eyes drinking the throng, dread etched in every line of his pinched features. Gideon Warwick claimed the forward pew, pious as a carved seraph. Freshly barbered, locks pomaded flat, swathed in a broadcloth rig likely pricier than my prime bull. When he craned back our way, his mug was a mask of woebegone pity. "My wretched lambs," he boomed, pitched for the rafters. "What torments has this woman wrought upon you?" Reverend Cale launched the liturgy, but sermons fell on deaf pews. The flock's gaze bored into us, murmurs slithering like sidewinders. I caught the barb's plain, reclusive dowager, holed up since her boy's fever took him. Never shook the grave's chill. What's her game with a stray lad? Elias burrowed tight against my ribs. I slung an arm round his thin shoulders and felt the shivers rack him. Vespers done, we spilled into the knife-edged noon glare. I was easing Elias down the risers when Rufus Kane, who slung dry goods at the Emporium, blocked my path. "Can't trade with you anymore, Langford," he grumbled, eyes glued to his boot toes. "A body who poaches whelps, well, I hold to principles." I rustled no souls, I countered. Marshall's word stands otherwise. You've till the clock strikes thrice to cough Jem up, or it's the calaboose. Kane hawked a quid of chore into the dust. Rubbed shoulders 20 winters, Cass. Figured you solid. Reckon a soul can misjudge. He pivoted sharp. For more souls trailed, backs turned theatrical as a mummer's farce. Lupe's fingers grazed my arm. Homeward, now, but I'd one errand left. The assay office shuttered for the holy day, but I knew Assayer Theo Bram's quarters. He was Gideon Warwick's kin by blood, small-town gospel. Yet he tallied the territory's charters too. I rapped the panel till it cracked, revealing him sour-faced in his galluses and union suit, Theo Bram's jowls tightened like rawhide under a running iron. Miss Langford, I'm after the flowage ledgers for Echo Gulch. Back to 1873. His gaze soured to buttermilk. Bureaus bolted for the Lord's Day. Swing around Tuesday. It's vital. Those young ones I'm shielding. Poaching, you call it? He folded his arms, thick as hams. Words flown the wires. And supposing I cared to oblige, which I ain't, sifting archives pulls a docket toll. $50. $50 was a cowhand's haul for a full season's sweat. He clocked my means, all right. Knew the game he was roping. That's no statute, and you ken it fine. It is these days. Dominion Code greenlight scribes to Levi fair shakes for diggin services. He bared a grin, gums flecked with snuff dregs. Shell out 50, Langford. Then Tuesday, with specie jinglin, or skedaddle off my stoop. The door clapped shut like a judge's gavel in my teeth. Doc Harlan lounged by my mare, reins loose. He'd shadowed us from the steeple. And from the thundercloud on his brow, he'd caught the full reel. This tangle runs deeper in a dry well, he murmured. Flowage writs from 1873. That's the crown claim on Echo Gulch, elder than Methuselah's in this draw. Who grips it collars the drink for every spread and soddy below the grade. And the iron horse, I added, the pieces slamming home like a hammer on anvil. Coal burners guzzle gallons. We both wheeled toward the chapel. Gideon Warwick loomed on the portico, jawing with a gent in a rail syndicate waistcoat. The line boss. I'd marked him gridding the basin last moon, staking the ribbon's path. The boss flicked a peek our way, then jerked his gaze to the dirt, but not shy of the flicker in his eye. Shame, perchance. Or the stink of cornered rats. Miss Langford. A piping timbre at my boot heels. Elias had levered upright, Lupe's elbow his crutch. That fella yarning with my stepma, his rail stock. Track to our cabin plenty. Her and him, always J-win coin, bout locking a down spring flow. What to scrape us off the board if Papa held out on the deeds? The boss clocked Elias's jab. He barked a clipped oath at Gideon and bolted, loping for the siding yard. Gideon locked eyes with me. That smirk wasn't the saintly beam from the pulpit, 'twas ice-fanged, a gambler's tally. Then she tweaked a gloved salute, thumb to brim, pure venom in velvet. Doc Harlan's paw clamped my collarbone. Cass, if flowage stakes are in play, if the spike drivers are knotted, this ain't some piddlin's awardship squall. We're bucking a wolves who'd skin their own for a fist of greenbacks. I breathed, tracking Gideon's melt into the press. Elias still fisted that scored gauge rod, white-knuckled as a gunslinger's rosary. That gloaming, Doc Harlan wheeled back unbidden, lugging his physicker's daguerreotype rig, one o' them fresh-fangled black boxes that trapped souls on silvered panes. Lupe had tucked Elias and Lila in the loft garret, but Doc Harlan coaxed him alert, feather-soft. Elias, reckon I gotta inspect you thorough, he soothed. Snap plates for the docket. That's square. The boy dipped his chin, grave as a deacon in the tallow glow. What Doc Harlan unearthed curdled my innards. Healed kinks in his right humerus, warped like wind-twisted scrub. For cigar singes laddered his left wrist, moons faded to rosy wheels. Contusions ribbing his flanks, stamped in the tread of spurred heels. When he bid the lad hike his union suit, the lantern threw shadows on worse. A scarred atlas of malice veining his narrow spine. How long this hell? Doc Harlan probed, voice a hush. Since Papa hitched to her, Elias husked. 2 winters back. She played sweet first. Then the knot tied, she soured. Growled we ate more'n we earned. Started chaining Just in the storm pit for sass. Lupe wept without a sound at the threshold, signing the cross in a fevered litany. And your Papa? I pressed. Did she lash him too? Elias's mug folded like damp newsprint. He stood buffer. Flat out refused when she pushed the scrip. Scrip on the flowage. She flew into black tempests. Hollered sands that grant the rails stiff her payout. Called us dead weight. Every last one. The shutter popped, etching each outrage in mercury ghost. Doc Harlan toiled precise, mandible grinding like millstones. I'll stand docket for this, he vowed when the last plate cooled, systematic torment stretched over moons. A blueprint of willful agony. Any bench would clock it square. Any bench that beats Gideon to yanking these whelps back. I murmured. Doc Harlan stowed his dagger rig. The acrid bite of fulminate still ghosting the rafters. Cass, I pulled your steers from blackleg fever in '81. Mind it? You were set to cull the lot, but I swore we could buck it. And we did. I mind. Well, I'm swearing now. We can buck this too. He eyed me, then Elias, those ageless peepers fixed on us both. I shed my boy at Shiloh, 19 summers, bled out on my chest. Vowed that hour I'd never idle while pain gnawed if my hand could stay it. He thrust his palm. This scrap of a lad needs you. And you him. That spread o' yours echoes hollow these years. I clasped it. His hold was iron-rooted, unyielding, the clasp of a soul dead set on his oath. When he'd wheeled off, I kept vigil by Elias as Lupe scoured the physic gear. The hearth snapped merry, and beyond the panes, the squall had spent its fury at last. Langford. Elias's timbre was a hush. Why are you throwing in with us? Gideon swears none credit us, cause we're just sprats. Claims he's got script that brands us his. Script twists like a snake, I said. Folks do worse. But that shanko yours? It sings true. Them scorches holler louder. He fell mute a beat. Then she murdered Papa. I clocked it. The admission coiled thick as fog in the chamber. Lay it out, I coaxed. It was high summer. Papa wouldn't ink the flowage grant. Said those rights were mine and Lila's, blood tied from his kin. Stretching to when great-grandpa first broke sod here. He held fiduciary till we stood tall. Elias's digits knotted the coverlet. Gideon flew into thunder, hauled him to the dry shaft. I dogged bellied low by the cordwood stack. Her murmur thin to a thread. She pinned his elbows. Like so. He brushed his biceps. Growled, ink or I'll pitch you down this bore. Papa barked, nay, cradling Lila. He locked stairs with me. Knew my hidey hole. And flung Lila my way. Just lobbed her like a feed poke. I snagged her. Salt tracks carved his cheeks now. Then Gideon shouldered him. He toppled rearward down the pit. I heard the crunch on stone. Heard his gasp. Then silence like a grave. Lupe had drifted back in. She perched on the pallet and folded Elias to her bosom, swaying him gentle as Lila, whispering Yaki please. Elias pressed on, timbre smothered in her flank. Gideon rappelled the rope and fished Papa clear. Told the county he perished in whelping, that the birthing soured with Lila coming. But Lila dropped in April. Papa went in September. Any soul with fingers can cipher that's rot. Did you breathe word to her ear? I probed. Who'd stake my tail? Elias's gaze hooked mine. She vowed if I spilled, she'd sluice Lila under too. Rig it as mishap, and none blink, 'cause young uns drop like autumn leaves. I gained my feet, paced to the casement. Afar, the firmament glittered stark and pitiless. Out yonder, Gideon Warwick snored easy, reckoning victory tucked in. Langford. Elias piped again. Ere Papa passed, he slipped me his parka. Stitched a keepsake in the hide. Made me swear Gideon never sniff it. Said if doom struck him, hunt the roving justice, bear it. Lupe shot me a glance. The jacket we paired off him, I banked it. She loped to the scullery, returned toting Elias's rime-caked parka. The welt was bungled stitchery. Coarse baling twine-drawn drum-taut. Lupe snipped the seam with her shears, deliberate as a surgeon. A creased vellum tumbled free. I bloomed it under the lantern's thumb. Dominion seal cresting the head. Faint script, parts blurred, but legible. And low in the lee, rust-brown flecks, clotted with time. Flowage charter. I intoned it. Echo Gulch, elder date, July 1873. Bestowed to Elara Langford and Victor Thorne. Co-claim devolved on death to lineal get of flesh. Langford, my grandame's mark. Thorne, Elias's great-grandpa. Our bloodlines roped this joint, I rasped, throat gravel. 73, that's when they first claimed this basin, before the Iron Horse, before the outpost, before a soul stake to claim. Elias dipped his chin. Papa swore you and me share blood deep in the line. Fourth cousins, like as not. Said the Langfords and Thorns broke this ground shoulder to shoulder when it was raw frontier. Lupe brushed the rust flecks. This is his father's blood. Elias breathed. From when he stitched it, he nicked his thumb on the awl. He was weeping and quivering, ricin' the dark afore Gideon rolled in. He gripped my shoulder. This deed's your birthright. Don't let her snatch your tomorrow. A scrape beyond the sills. Boot on the gallery. We all went statue still. Then Elias's peepers bulged with raw panic, and he loosed a howl. Not speech, just beast-wild terror. I snagged my sharps and ghosted to the portal. Lupe yanked Elias and Lila to her skirts, barricading them with her bulk. The yowl cut short, but the lad quaked so fierce the trundle groaned. The rap fell again. Heavy, pointed. It's me, Thomas. My vaqueros hail, edged sharp. Patrona, you gotta heed this. I cracked the jam. Thomas reeled across, mug a crimson mask, one peeper ballooning purple. Trailing, two more of my crew half-hauled him to the rocker. What chewed you up? I barked. Saddled for sundries in the burg. Thomas hawked gore into a cloth Lupe thrust his way. Bumped rail toughs at the cantina. They were whooping it up, slinging rots about you and the boy. I bid muzzle it. He prodded his lantern jaw, wincing. They took that crosswise. How many? 6. Landed a few before they dogpiled. He lifted his gaze to mine, the hail orb blazing. The ramrod, though, that scant of the venom. Mid the pummelin', I caught their palaver. Said Gideon Warwick reined them to dog this roost. Said, if she don't fork the whelps by sun-up next, they're to storm in and rustle Jem raw. Lupe signed the cross, fervent. Elias mewed from the berth. Worse yet, Thomas pressed. One owed them? Hulking brute with a welt cross his gullet. He was soused and spoutin'. Said Gideon dangled extra scrip if the whelps happened to founder in the snatchin'. Quipped, sodden young uns can't spill beans. The chamber hushed, save the hearth's chew. Russell Doc Harlan, I clipped. And Reverend Cale from the steeple, too. We need is sworn to Thomas's yarn. We need another thump. This round, Doc Harlan his own self, heaving like a spent Mustang. Cass, storms brewin'. Big black thunder. He bulled through unbidden. I swung by the assayers to docket a writ on Elias's hurts. Fancied if we inked it official afore the thrice-day lapsed, it might carve us breath. But the scribe spilled the circuit justice Hale ain't riding the till April. High trails choked white. Won't thaw till the runoff. Doc Harlan shucked his lid, raked fingers through his silver thatch. Cass, that's 5 moons off. Gideon sun-up sundown thrice ticks noon tomorrow. 5 moons? Might as well be 5 eternities. One more twist. Doc Harlan unspooled. Whilst I jawed at the assayers, I spied Gideon Dockind parchments. Couldn't cipher but the quill pusher grinned like he'd struck a gusher. I nosed around after, slipped a bailiff I trust to sneak the stack. He fished a dog-eared sheet from his waistcoat. Gideon's pushing it a brand you feeble-minded. Claims you've wobbled since your boy's ague claimed him. Says you've shunted your sorrow onto Elias. That you're gripped by phantoms. Hallucinating your lost whelp in this lad. Says you're hazard to hide nor hair. The barb sank like barbed wire in the brisket. My son Theo ate when the creek fever stole him 15 winters past. But the raw edge keen as dawn. I'd scourged my hide daily since. Autovee damned that cully. Autovee shadowed him tighter. She's wielding a Theod against you. Doc Harlan husked low. Wielding your wound like a bowie. Thomas spat fresh claret. That's baser 'en a coyote's privy. Oh, that's slick, I grated, loathing the truth in the bite. Berg already pegs me queer. Spinster dowager bunkered solo, kinless. Half reckon me moonstruck already. I glanced at Elias, still shuddering from the pallet. And now I'm bucking to bide a stray lad the selfsame age Theo was when the dark took him. It's worlds apart, Lupe snarled, iron in her spine. You're shielding him, not subbing in for your boy. Lupe's gaze bored fierce. I know, but a bench. I shook my head. Gideon stacking the deck. Faked wardship script, my tag as a recluse, my lost son. And 5 moons are for any badge with real weight rides in to sift the wheat from chaff. Doc Harlan slumped onto a stool like he'd shouldered a beam. One more barb. The plebe begs snap wardship. Claims the whelp's face instant peril from your cracked wits. And if the quill pusher green lights it, and he will, blood's thicker en ink to Gideon, the marshal can snatched come dawn, no thrice-day grace. The wall seemed to pinch inward. Afar, the mercury plunged anew. I caught the eaves' brittle snap, that queer tinkle of rhyme webbing the shakes. Elias levered to perch, hissing as the splint grated bone. Miss Langford, best cut us loose. Hand us to Gideon. Every eye snapped to the lad. Else she'll raise you flat, he pressed on. Timbre wee but welded. That's her gospel. She sniffs a man's soft spot and torches it. Did for papa. She'll do for you. Trax silvered his cheeks. I can't bear you broken on our account. I forded the chamber, dropped to haunches by the trundle, level with his gaze. Elias, hear me true. I lost my Theo 15 winters gone. Every dawn since, I've clawed to rewind, to yank him clear. Can't. But I can haul you and Lila from the brink, and I will, though it bleeds me dry to the last red cent. But why? He bawled free now. We're nobodies to you. Just stray sprats begging a offence. That's plenty, I said. Your papa grasped it bone deep. That's why he stitched that charter in your parka. Why he hurled your sister your way ere he dropped. He was carving you breath to bolt, to endure, to hook a soul who'd scrap tooth and nail. I grazed the scored gauge rod at his elbow. This rod stakes your line to 73. My grandame's markings that vellum too. We're woven. Distant thread, maybe, but warp and weft all the same, and out here, blood banks blood. Lupe bobbed her head. La familia es todo. Kin's the whole kit. Thomas lurched upright, teetering a shade. Patrona, you've 12 souls punch in this spread. We'll wall you in, every last. Doc Harlan snagged his satchel. And you've my hitch. I'll ledger it all. The whippings, the killin' calendar, the lot. When that justice finally spurs up, we'll shove proof down his craw. Gideon can't jaw his way clear. A ruckus abroad. Hooves. A herd's worth. I ghosted to the pane and peered into the sable. Brands flared the yard. Nigh 30 riders wheeling a half-moon around the stead. Marshal Tate loomed for, and flanking, Gideon Warwick. But the third shade ice my veins. Assay Theo Bram, brandishing a gilt-edged docket. Miss Langford, the marshal bade. I've a flash writ here, thumbed by the Dominion scribe. You're ruled provisionally daft. I'm claiming those young uns this instant. You buck, it's irons for defiance and whelp rustlin' both. Aft, I spied burgfolk clotting, some cradlin' irons, some mere gawkers. The whole hamlet'd saddled for the circus. Gideon beamed skyward at my sill. She'd collared it, and savoured the savour. Elias's paw snagged mine in the gloom. Reckon I'm grieved, he husked. Deep sorry. I shouldered onto the veranda, sharps cradled, muzzle earthward. The frost gnawed shirt deep. I'd slighted a shell. 30 mugs glowered back, their huffs blooming in the blaze glow. Marshal, you smell the rot in this, I pitched. What? I smell statute. Marshal Tate fidgeted his hack, sour as spoiled mash. That sheepskin sealed square. Spells the whelps crave yankined for their own skin. Their skin. I hooked a thumb aft. Lad Shanks cranked willful. His notched with cigar brands, warped bones from your welts trod in spur tracks. Doc Harlan's plated it all. You jaw safety? She spit shinin' a yarn. Gideon hollered. That boy pitched down the loft at my cabin. Butterfingered runt. Ever was. The singes are from hearth mishaps. I patched 'em best I could, but they're feral, handfuls of trouble. Doc Harlan husked, materializing at my elbow. She's 9 summers, Harlan. And I've doctored 3 decades. I ken accident from orchestrated hell. The marshal's mandible clenched like a sprung trap. Doc, I hold you in esteem, but writ's writ. That flash decree vests me power to haul those young uns to safeguard till the reckoning. 5 moons hence, when Justice Hale spurs in, we'll thresh it clean. 5 moons? I pitched. You reckon those whelps'll weather 5 moons under her thumb? Gideon smirk guttered. How dare? I'm their sworn ward. Their sire was my bondmate. Their sire who vanished under a cloud. Doc Harlan cut in. 6 moons shy of whelping a babe dropped 10 moons prior to his passing. Queer cipher, that. A susurrus rippled the throng. I spied Hamlet folk muttering, tallying moons on their knuckles. Theo Bram, the quill sharp, gigged his cayuse up front. That's libel, document Mr. Warwick perished in travail. Gospel to all. The Obbit sheepskins docketed. A sheepskin you docketed. Doc Harlan fired back. You, Gideon's bloodkin. You, who skims cream each time the spike line craves charters. You, who just gouged me 50 to I public flowage rolls. The susurrus swelled. Ears pricked now. This circles the drain, the marshal grumbled. Ms. Langford, fetch the young uns. Spare us the tangle. Lupe framed the threshold off me, cradling Lila. The mite was roused, peepers saucer-wide, questing the gloom. Trailing, Elias stumped forth on jury-rigged props Thomas had whittled from saplings. His brace limb trailed limp as a gutted fish. The pack hushed when they clocked him. Even in the sputter of pine knots, the wheels laddering his arms gleamed livid. His gait, wary, racked, wild-eyed, bellowed truren any oath. Mercy, Elias piped, his reed threading the haw. Mercy, don't freight us back. She'll carve Lila. Carve me. She snuffed Papa, she'll snuff us too. Delirium haze, Gideon snapped. The lad shattered. Spouts rot. Craves true nursin', not this deranged crone ladlin a poison in his ear. But I mark misgiving ghost of cross mugs in the press. A dame, Mrs. Greer, who slung beds at the roadhouse, clapped palm to lips. Grizzled Gus Harlan, who hawked provender at the granary, knit his brows. Marshal, I called, grant me 7 dawns. 7 to corral proof, harvest affidavits, bear the rot. If Justice Hale won't forward to us, I'll freight the ledger to him. Spur to billing solo if needs must. Can't bend it. Marshal Tate gravelled. That decree bites now. Then clap irons on me, I hurled. Pen me for scorn or whelp thieving or whatever hook you fancy. But bide the young uns here with Lupe and Doc Harlan. They're rooted. You ken the roost. Just carve a span to trumpet truth. The marshal nigh chewed it over. His mitt rode the horn, gay shuttling twixt me and the pair. Then Gideon piped. If you won't swing statute, Marshal, I'll claim my blood myself. I hold every writ. She swung down and stalked the veranda. Elias bayed, a gut-ripped wail of naked dread. He flung the props and lunged, but the shattered shank buckled. He spilled across the planking, still keening, scrabbling rearward from Gideon. Nay, nay, nay. Lord, nay. Lupe swooped him, nesting both now. Elias mashed his mug to her collar, frame heaving in heaves. The thronged gone tomb still. Even Gideon halted, as if the tableau struck her cold. That's dread, Doc Harlan breathed. True marrow freeze. Can't counterfeit that. That welt scared soul deep of her. Mrs. Greer hailed from the clot. Marshal, I clocked that lad at meeting this morn. Wheels then, too. Raw. I clocked Mr. Warwick, the elder Mr. Welted a-plenty. Our own eyes bore witness. Another dame chimed, we all marked. We just held our tongues. What passes for house rules ain't fodder for busybodies. Theo Bram bit off. Shattered limbs ain't correction, Gus Harlan rumbled. That's savagery. The marshal needed his chops. Long beat, he perched statue-like, the burden etching furrows cross his withers. 2 days, he ground out at last. Langford, you've 2 days to muster your ledger. Doc Harlan, you plate and docket every hurt. I'll stretch that far, given the mire. But come the mark, sans proof of torment, those welts revert to their sworn keeper. Clear? It was scant. Barely a foothold, but a toehold all the same. Clear, I echoed. Gideon erupted. This is rank treason. I've a Dominion writ, and I'm the badge in this drawer till Justice Hale reigns up. Marshal Tate's timbre turned tempered steel. 2 days. That's my call. Beef with it? Lodge your beef come April. He gigged his mount and loped clear. The bulk of the press trailed, but Gideon rooted in my dooryard, glaring up with venom hot as a smithy's coals. 2 days, she purred low. Save it, spinster, 'cause when they chime, I'm claimin' to my due. And after, she curved a fang smile. Mishaps befall the young. She forked her nag and melted into the murk. Elias's sobs had ebbed to whimpers. Lupe ferried him indoors, cooing Yaqui balm. Doc Harlan's grip bit my trapezius. 2 days to ransom 2 souls. Best not squander a tick. The morrow broke slate and sharp with mist greying the spread to slurry. The rime on the rafters wept plink by plink. Each pearl a knell tolling our span. Doc Harlan had toiled the witching, collating his mercury ghosts and physic scrawls into a bound indictment. Lupe'd burned the taper too, inking Elias's yarn of the sire's vanishing, the flailings, the flowage feud. By cockcrow, with a sheaf that'd blind a blind man to the rot. Trouble was rustling to square shooters. I spurred to Sagebrush Crossing, Doc Harlan at my stirrup, Thomas dogging rear, his lantern still plumb from the prior pasting. The high street sloshed mud-thick, beasts and rigs grinding it to gumbo. The tang of soaked loam braided with offal and cinder haze from the spike yard. We beelined for the Emporium. Needed to plant a flag public where the hamleted rubberneck. Rufus Kane hulked the till when we shouldered through. He hiked his gaze, clocked me, and his fizz stonewalled. Spelled it yesterday, no truck with you. Ain't here to trade, I said. Here to trumpet verity, and you'll hear it. I vaulted a salt keg for the full house to clock. Nigh 15 souls milling, Dane's chief, with a scatter of buck snagging staples. They froze, peepers pinned. Most ken me. Cass Langford's punched this basin 40 winters. Some peg me addled since my Theo fevered out. Could be. But addle don't spell false. Hop off that, Kane growled. You're spooking a my trade. 2 nights passed, I hauled a black boy drag gins his sister might through a white oat. His shank wrenched, not from tumble, but deliberate crank. Cigar wales on his wrists. Crooked mends from yore, cause no hand braced o' em right. He was pinched to bones. His sister fade in a fast. Aye. Mrs. Greer loomed in the crush, juggling a poke of cornmeal. She eased it to the plank, all ears. Gideon Warwick yaps I rustled her blood. Yaps I moon-touched. Easier swallow than stark. I fished Elias's scored gauge rod from my waistcoat. But this rod? Flowage tally. Elias's great-grandpa whittled it in 73 when he first docketed Echo Gulch. Self-same year, my grandame docketed hers. Our lines forged this draw joint, and I unfurled the flowage charter, the one Lupaid pride from Elias's Parker welt. The Russ corner stark as sin. This charter stakes Elias and his sister to elder flowage on Echo Gulch. Stakes devolved to flesh get, stakes Gideon Warwick craves fierce she yoked their sire to collar em. When he balked ink in em over, she snuffed him. The Emporium gone catacomb hush. Even Caned quit his beef. That's a grave charge, one buck growled. You pack proof? Elias clocked it, saw her shoulder him down the bore. The obit script yaps he whelped in July 073, but the mite dropped in April. Any soul here with knuckles can tally that's bunk. Mrs. Greer's fizz blanched to ash. Saints preserve. I mind when Mr. Warwick passed. We all reckoned queer him fade in a moon shy o' the whelp. But Gideon swore it lagged travail woes, and Doc Harlan's predecessor inked the docket. That Sawbones bolted for Oregon sharp after. Always itched me odd. Another dame piled on, lit out for Oregon sudden. Long pondered that. The spikeline guzzles drink, I pressed. There rib in this basin, and coal eaters slake like thirst-mad steers. Gideon pledged to lock on Echo Gulch for coin and a grid gig, but she can't freight that lock whilst those welts draw breath. Doc Harlan shouldered up. I physic-proof ledgerins 2 winters orchestrated hell. Plates, sworn yarns. Those young uns teeter on the brink. The jam swung, and a gent in syndicate kit shouldered through. The self-same line boss I'd marked yarning with Gideon at the steeple. He froze when he clocked the knot around me. You, I pitched. You ramrod the rails. You powwowed with Gideon Warwick on flowage stakes. The boss's mug flushed beat. He wheeled for the rain. Spill it, I bade. Spill what Gideon dangled you. Ain't hip to your rot. You pack a girl child, eh? Doc Harlan murmured low. Spied her at Vespers. Bonnie scrap, nigh 10. How'd it gnaw if some wolf wrought on her what Gideon wrought on Elias? The boss rooted. His withers sagged. Long spell, he loomed in the frame, sluice pattern off his lid. I've a duplicate o' the bond, he husked at last, not wheeling. Toted it in my waistcoat 3 dawns, gnawing o' the hook. Claws in there. Flowage handoff hangs on scrub bin the rival get. He craned now, fizz knotted in self-scorn. Didn't twig the scrub at jump. Fancied legalese, but then I caught those sprats nigh iced stiff in the brakes, and the worm turned. He fished a dog-eared sheet from his shell and thrust it my way. Got a daughter. Won't rope in whelp slaughter for punctual spikes. The Emporium detonated in hubbub. Folks jamming to either bond, timbres spiking in outrage and gall. Kane vaulted his barricade. He scanned the bond, scanned Elias's flowage charter. Scan me. I'm in your debt for the slight, he gravelled. Swallowed a grifter swilf cause it slid easier and stark. Don't crave your rue, I said. Crave you bunkered when the marshal reins up. Crave ears. Crave this berg to pick the straight trail. Mrs. Greer piped. You got my stake. I'll stand docket on clocking a Mr. Warwick welted. I'll stand on spying Elias at meeting yestereve, scared witless. Me likewise, another dame chimed. And me, Gus Harlan rumbled. The clot stirred. Not the full tally. Some still squinted wary. Some ghosted the jam shy o' the line. But plenty. Plenty to tip scales. The door crashed wide. Gideon Warwick loomed, sluiced and sea-thin. Trailing, Marshall Tate. You're 2 days chime early, Gideon iced. I'm claiming her my blood now. It's been a score o' hours, I counted. Not too full. Reckoned otherwise. Gideon curved a rhyme grin, chill as February stone. Marshall concurs. The whelps crave yank in this instant, specially post last night's caper. My craw knotted. What rot you spoutin'? Your tack shed, Marshall Tate drawled. And now I clocked the lamp black on his shell, sniffed the char haze. Blazed around 3 bells. We wrestled most clear, but the scars deep. $3 clocked your vaquero, Thomas torch in it, swore he was soused, raving mad about ashing Gideon flat. That's pure horseshit, I spat. Thomas shouldered up, fizz still bloated from the prior thrashing. I bunked the longhouse all eve. 12 more can swear it's square. 3 spike hands yap otherwise, the marshal gravelled, and they gained to oath it in session. Yappin' Thomas hollered how Gideon owed blood, how he'd char her roost if pushed. It's spike hands, Doc Harlan cut in. The self-same crew who pulped Thomas yester. Mighty Pat. Gideon splayed her mitts, lamb-eyed. I'm just ferrying a word. But it nails my yarn, don't it? Langford's packs feral and frayed. Those whelps ain't snug there. The Emporium's throng gawked, ears perked. Some fizzes soured wary anew. Blaze was grave gospel. Tack shed spelled supper. A soul who'd kindle a shed might unleash any demon. Marshal, you crave the firebug's tag? The line boss piped. Either trotters owes them 3 peepers. Clocked EM at the siding duskward, freightin' coal oil drums to a buckboard. Growled they had chores for Ms. Warwick. Growled they'd pocket a season's pay in one witching. Gideon's mug shadowed to thunderhead. Mind your tongue, Reeves. That's calumny. You pack proof? Got peepers, Reeves rasped. And a craw gnawin' me raw. Won't idle while sprats founder so my syndicate skimps on flowage scrip. You're pink-slipped, Gideon cracked. Don't draw your wage. I draw the syndicates. I'll yank your string all the same. Gideon wheeled on the marshal. This is a cabal. The lot scheming to smear me so Langford can cling to my blood. The marshal sagged weary. He shucked his lid, raked digits through his mop. I marked a gent snared twixt writ and right. Not sure which bridle he bore. Ms. Warwick, queries are brewing in me, he drawled deliberate. True queries on calendars and obit scrip and why 3 spike hands to clock a torch in the selfsame eve your shed chars. You indictin' of me? I'm saying we'll sift it thorough afore welt swap hands. The marshal hooked to me. Langford, you're 2 days hold, but I'm plantin' bailiffs at your spread for the young un's hide and yours. None sniffs them sans my nod. This is rank outrage, Gideon bade. I've dominion wardship and reigns to guard those welt skins whilst we probe. Claims oats flailin' and fire setting. The marshal's timbre turned blade. That's my last call. Beef? Haul it to Justice Hale come April. Gideon bored stares his way long. Then she curved that rhyme fang beam that crawled my hide. Fair enough, she husked. 2 days, but I'm docking a writ on your reins, Marshal. Will I how long that tin rides when the Dominion overseer catches how you bunked a rustler 'gainst sealed wardship. She stalked the jam, boot heel sucking mud. The marshal fixed me. You pack ledgers? True ledgers that'll bind. Doc Harlan thrust the physic tome and plates. Orchestrated hell 2 winters running. The hurts don't fib. And this, the marshal passed the flowage charter, the syndicate bond. His fizz firmed with every leaf. Saints and sinners. This is whelp hunting for green. That's the gospel I've hawked, I said. He accordioned the sheaf deliberate, banked it in his waistcoat. Got a vet some. The whelping rolls, obit calendar, flowage stakes, docket dates. He lit on Theo Bram, the quill sharp who'd lurked the stores hind Mr. Bram. I crave ingress to your stacks. Every last. Bram's mug drained away. Bureau's barred this holy day. Unbar it. Gotta groom the sheaves. Unbar now or it's balcony irons. The marshal's leash snapped. I'm fixin' to ponder what other ghosts lurk in them stacks. We sloshed the slurry to the assay den. Throng dog gin our heels. Bram juggled his iron, digits juddering. Within, the lair reeked of musty vellum and gall and whale blaze. Birth rolls first, the marshal clipped. Lila Thorne ought to be docketed. April 073. Bram tugged a tome, riffled brittle leaves. April 12th. Whelp to Victor Thorne, nay Langford blood. And the obit script for Victor Thorne. Fresh ledger. Bram's paws judded fierce now. September 9th, Manor Oa pass in, travail woes. You know, 6 moons post the babes drop, Doc Harlan husked. That's physic heresy. Could be scribe slip, Bram jabbered swift. Or graft, the marshal gravelled. Who thumbed this obit? Doc Voss. Who lit for Idaho clean after and stayed gone? The marshal bored into Bram. You docketed this. Had to twig the dates clashed. Bram clammed mute. Flowage rolls now, I pressed. Echo Gulch, 1873. But Bram yanked an elder stack, leaves jaundiced as old tallow. July 5th, 73. Ilara Langford and Victor Thorne. Co-claim. Crown elder in the basin. And any handoffs or tweaks? Bram thumbed frantic. Naught. The stake clings to prime lines are less vended or blood-shifted. So Gideon Warwick holds no writ to that flowage, the marshal rumbled. None worth spit. Only Elias and Lila do. Spot on, Bram yielded. And you twigged it when you gouged Langford 50 to sift it. Bram's hush rang confession. The marshal latched the tones gentle. Mr. Bram, you're nabbed for swindle and cabal. I'll cipher the hooks later, but you ain't strolling the loose. You can't. I'm Dominion Quill. You're a snake who cooked obit scrip. The marshal fished irons. And when Justice Hale reigns up, you'll jaw every sheepskin you inked. That weren't gospel. Afar, thunder growled low. The Thor deluge hammered fiercer, sluicing winter's rhyme to sluice, churning lanes to chill chocolate torrents. Reverend Cale framed the jam, rung through, heaving winded. Cass, praise the stars I tracked you. I've combed chapel stacks all the dark. He brandished a hidebound tome, christened log. Lila Thorne christened April 17th, 73, 6 moons shy ose her sire whelping to her. That's 3 nails the obit script's a forgery, Doc Harlan tallied. The marshal lit on Bram. Crave to cough truth now, for it buries you deeper? Bram's fizz folded like wet buckram. Gideon slipped me 500 to docket the obit with bent tail. Swore it kinwrangle, that Victor'd shamed the line and she aimed to shield the whelps from jaw flap. His timbre sank. Didn't ken she snuffed him. Oath on my hope. But you nosed it, the marshal pressed. Bram bobbed wretched. The downpour thrashed the shakes, a snare's rattle. Through the glazing, I spied Hamlet souls clotting 'gainst the squall, rubbernecking the unfolding. Where's Gideon hidden? I probed. Reckon not a league off, the marshal said. Not in this slop. And now we've nailed graft and plot. He trailed. His mug blanched bone. The young uns. If she sniffs the proof, if she scents the noose tightening. We all clocked the same thunderbolt. We bolted for our broncs. The haul back to the spread was devil's own. Deluge flaying cower fizzes. The nags wallow in their muck that clutched their frogs like tar. Thunder boomed zenith and chain lightning, clove the vault, bleach in fall to ghost flashes. I spied haze, for we crested the final swell. Not the shed this round, the big house. Nay, I gasped. Lord, nay. We gigged the beasts brutal. They frost at the snaffle, ribs pump in her bellows, but they poured their marrow. The dooryard roiled bedlam. My vaqueros chained a pale line from the crick, but the blaze gripped the west flank. Tongues lashed the scullery slits, and the cloudburst couldn't quench a lem. Some sold primed it with juice. Stoked to sear swift and savage. I bailed my mare mid-stride. Lupe! Elias! Thomas snagged my elbow. They slipped clear. Either way, I'm sunk. So, you'll snuff a whelp? The marshal's paw rode his hog-leg. That's your fix? She done me dirt first. Gideon shrieked. Her and her damned sire. All I craved was them flowage rights. Just a thumb on vellum, but Victor wouldn't ink. Swore they blood tied to his treasured sprats. Growled Kinrit outweighed coin. She cackled. A fractured bark. Kinrit. What writ? A scrap in a gulch. I dangled her the stars. Shelter, ease, true breath. She picked a ghost's echo stead. Elias wept fiercer now, clawins to wrench free, but Gideon's vice was anvil. Mercy, he blubbered. Mercy, I just crave my sister. I just ache to go home. Something in me splintered. Catching that home? He meant my spread. In 3 dawns, he'd claimed it half. I swung down slow, palms bared, vacant. Gideon, hark me. You're cornered raw. But slayin' Elias won't mend it. It'll just tack another slaughter tally. Belike the justice carve mercy if you jaw square. Belike. Belike squat. She hauled Elias rear another stride. The drink lapped his boot toes now. Crave him? Freight him. She flung him. Elias's wail snuffed as he struck the surge. The mill ray snared him sharp, yanking him under. I spied him crest once, 30 yards down, limbs thrashin', gob agape in a mute holler. Then he vanished, whipped around the elbow. I didn't cipher, just bolted, plungin' her after. The chill clubbed like a maul, punchin' wind from my chest. The flow was beast alive, savage and starved. Couldn't clock naught but silt, sluice and spume. My brogans flooded, anchorin' a me low. I shed battled topside, gulped air there, a whip owed dark curls. Elias tumblin' in the race, already limp. I clove harder'n I'd clove in my days. My limbs blazed, my bellows wailed. The drink clawed to drag me low, to the boulders that had snapped frames and crowns. My fist snagged cloth, Elias's shirt. I reeled him close, hooked my elbow across his ribs, thrashed for the shelve, but the race was brute. It freighted us both down trough toward the riffles I knew loomed, toward the chute that plunged 40 foot to fangs. A lariat slapped the drink abreast me. I smagged it one poured, nigh spilled Elias, clamped Cruella. The hemp sang taut, and some soul, Thomas, I twigged later, hauled with marrow's might. We slammed the bar savage. Paws yanked us clear, rolled Elias flankward. Slew spewed from his gob, but no rise. Doc Harlan loomed, pumping his breastbone, mouth to mouth. On with it, lad. On. 1 puff. 2, 3. Elias hacked. Deluge jetted. He gulped, strangled, gulped anew. His peepers cracked. Grandame, he husked. That's when I twigged he hailed me. Up the trace, thunder of irons. I craned through the cloudburst and clocked Gideon forkin for her nag, fording the cully. The beast swam, back into the mill. Gideon lashed it, baying her to fleet. The nag submerged, Gideon trailing. They crested once, far trough. Man and mustang both reeled for the chute. The marshal and his bailiffs pelted the shelve, but naught to do. Gideon Warwick crested the brink and plumbed not. We fished her husk 5 dawns hence, snagged in the grinders below. The drink wrought its reckoning. Wild scales, some yapped. Divine doom, others. I just cinched Elias tight and blessed whatever fates breathed he yet drew. The assayer's den in sagebrush crossing ne'er brimmed so. Souls jammed shoulder to flank, mobbing at the sills, spilling to the slurry lane. Thought bloomed full now, the breeze mild, with greening sod and meadow stars wafting o'er the flung portals. Justice hailed spurred a fortnight shy, raining a brutal when wire hit billings o' the passings and the ledger. He loomed lanky, 70 winters if a day, with frost money and orbs that had drunk deep o' the wild's fangs. Elias perched my flank in the forebench, his shank at last unshackled. He still hitched when he stumped, like as not ever would. Doc Harlan reckoned the femur'd knit awry despite his finest hand, but the lad drew breath. And that trumped all. Lila perched in Lupe's lap, fussing a whittled nag Thomas shaped for her. The mite fleshed out these past moons, her jowls rounding, her peepers keen and questing instead glazed with want. Justice Hale cracked his mallet, and the den fell to hush. This tribunal's called to thresh sundry reckonings, he intoned. Prime, wardship owed Elias and Lila Thorne. Second, fate owed holdings and flowage stakes. Third, the indictments against assayer Theo Bram. Bram hunched fettered at the bar, looking 20 winters wearier than a moon prior. We'll kick off with the plain one, Justice Hale allowed. Mr. Bram, you've owned the counts, swindle, cooking Dominion rolls, and cabal. The ledger's ironclad. Or to jaws for I leave I doom. Bram creaked upright. Your Honour, I ken my sin deep. I pocketed Gideon Warwick's coin and docketed scrip I knew bent. Whispered to my hide it can dust up, that I warn't truly scarrin' or a soul. His timbre cracked. But I abetted a slayer. Them whelps nigh foundered, cause I was gutless to trumpet true. Justice Hale gravelled. And for that, you'll draw 5 winters in Dominion calaboose. You'll shed your perch and your draw too. This frontier spits on scribes for sale. The mallet fell. Bailiffs hauled Bram clear. Now, wardship, Justice Hale eyed me. Miss Langford, you've sued for full keep o' Elias and Lila Thorne. You twig these sprats tote heft, 640 acres o' claim ground, plus crown flowage on Echo Gulch, tallied nigh $15,000. I twig, Your Honour, I said. But that's their haul, not mine. I'm bidding to stand their fence and steward their cash till Elias stands tall. And you, Master Thorne? Justice Hale lit on Elias. You're 9 summers, green yet, but sage enough for a say. Crave Miss Langford your fence. Elias gained his pins. He wore a fresh waistcoat looped pieced. Indigo denim sprigged with yellow stars. His locks cornrowed neat, bound with cord. He looked a proper young buck stead o' the frost-gnawed wraith-eyed snared in the drifts. Aye, sir, he piped clear. I crave bunkin with Grand Dame Cass. She yanked me from the brink. Yanked Lila too. She's square and tender, don't lay a hand cruel. Schools me reckonings, lets me pitch with the remuda, and she. His timbre thinned. She banks me snug. First since Papa went, I clock snug. The Justice's crag softened a hair. I mark. And you ken your stepma's gone? Can't claw you more. Aye, sir. The drink claimed her like Papa. But Papa warn't owed it, she was. A susurrus slithered the hall. Justice Hale cracked for quiet. Statutes plain, he said. Flesh kin trumps in keep cases. But Gideon Warwick's dust, and I spy no brayer thin thorn blood left. On the Langford flank, he hooked to me. Miss Langford, you and these whelps share rootstock. Ilara Langford and Victor Thorne, who wrote the flowage stake joint in 73. I, Your Honour. Ilara Langford my grandame. Victor Thorne Elias's great-grandpa. Brands us 4th cousins. Kin a-plenty for fence reckoning, Justice Hale scrawled a sheet with flair. Cassandra Langford, I bestow full wardship o' Elias and Lila Thorne. you'll steward their cash till Elias hits 1 and 20, when he'll collar the reins. The flowage cling to thorn get eternal. Can't vend, only blood pass. The mallet thumped anew. This round, the den detonated cheers. Elias flung around my neck. We bide true? True bide? True bide, I husked, gullet gravel. Justice Hale warn't done. As for the syndicate's lock on flowage ingress, that bond's dust. The bond hinged on swindle and plot to slay. The thorn whelps owe the syndicate naught. Justice Hale lit on the line boss hunkered aft. If your outfit hungers for flowage ingress, you'll haggle square with the true keepers when Master Thorn stands tall. Not a tick shy. Fresh hurrahs thundered. The boss soured to curd but dipped his lid. Afar the assayers, the berg brimmed revel. Mrs. Greer hawked a pie. Gus Harlan forked provender for renitting of the chardwing o'er my stead. Even Kane shuffled up, hangdog, danglind tally at his till. Misjudged you cruel, I did, he gravelled. And I'm grieved for it. Warn't solo, I said. But you wheeled when the wind bit. That's the meat. Reverend Cale threaded the press to us. Cass, reckoning them welts merit christening a square. Given their coil, seems just to ink it in chapel rolls. I'd prize that, I said. And belike, he beamed. Belike you ought to seal it writ firm too. Keep scrip, not just fence. Collar your mark. I glanced to Elias, fisted round my paw fierce. What say? Crave Elias Langford, Stedos Thorn. He mulled grave. Can I splice them? Elias Thorn Langford, so I don't shed papa nor grandame. That's prime, I husked. We ambled the high street to our hitched broncs. The sun bathed mild on our fizzes. The breeze whiffed verdant and fresh. And first in 15 winters, I reckon belike brayeth in a talad worth a haul. Lila stretched from Lupe's crook and snagged my thumb. Grandame, she piped clear, her prime true word shy or Elias. Lupe chortled through salt. See? Even the mic clock's her kin. Kin. The tally sank my brisket like a live ember, steady glow. We'd a haul home, and come there'd be toil, wire to splice, for planning to cinch, a stead to resurrect. But this tick, this breath, all rode true. 22 winters fled that thaw. I'm a crone now, 87, hunkered my gallery, eyeing with the sun bleed gold o'er the crags. The spreads Thorn Langford Hall nigh 3 decades. The spikeline ribbons the basin, forking fair shake for flowage lock, just as Justice Hale decreed. Elias spurs over each springtide with his bride and their 4 whelps. My great get, though we trimmed the great long gone, she yoked a solid gent from the yonder draw, a cowman who hands her velvet and clocks her steel. He stumps that hitch still, but it ne'er hobbled his stride. Lila collars the claim flank-ind mine. 2,000 acres prime grey she cashed from the flowage scrip. She's 3 lasses o' her own, and every UN can score a cully with a tallied rod. That rod, the one Elias's great-grandpa whittled in 73. It leans by his papa's headstone up the rise. Each thaw when the slush surges, Elias fetches it down and gauges echo gulch. Same's his great-grandpa, same's I schooled him. His whelps clock and cipher, and someday they'll school theirs. The drink rolls on. The wheels grind. And truth? Truth's loose is stark and chill eternal, like that gulch. Folks probe why I staked all for 2 sprats short o' or blood. I yap blood's one we've owed to kin. The weave that bites deepest's the kin you claim when claiming a calves deep. The kin you buck for when the wide world hollers quit. I shed my Theo to drink. Fate handed me Elias and Lila through drink. Reckon that's even in its weave. Some tally hoard in beef or dirt. I tallied mine in 2 young bucks who showed an old crone her ticker yet thumped. The gulch sings high tonight. I catch its ancient lay from here. Time to shoulder in. Elias is frying his papa's venison stew for the board. And kin's waiting.